Have you ever wondered why the weight of words is important? Did you know that the way you speak and think has a great influence on your well-being and also on your relationships with others? It can be said that every word you use is as if you have planted a tree in the world. With words, you can create important bonds, but at the same time, you can push away the people around you. So, do you realize how important the power of words is? Are you aware that your tongue is a very powerful weapon, and that it can be used to hurt and destroy, or to heal and inspire? In the Zen story you are about to listen to, you will discover the 10 tongue diseases that can ruin your life and that of the people around you. Furthermore, you will learn communication techniques. You will know how to recognize negative attitudes in your way of communicating, but also in the people you come into contact with. You will discover which words you should never say, and you will be able to recognize these negative attitudes in your way of communicating or in that of others. And that's not all, because if you stay until the end, you will discover how you can change the way you communicate to avoid suffering and to achieve inner peace. But before continuing, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to know when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. The disciples of the monk Toju eagerly awaited his lessons on the power of words. The air was filled with an atmosphere of quiet and deep attention, while the silence was interrupted only by the rustling of leaves moved by the wind blowing outside the monastery. Toju, with his face furrowed by wrinkles of wisdom and a look that exuded imperturbable serenity, began to weave his story, a fascinating journey into the realm of words and their immense power. Dear disciples, Toju began in a calm voice. Words are like double-edged swords. They can build or destroy, heal or hurt, and it is our duty as beings on the path to enlightenment to learn to master our language and use it for the common good. The disciples nodded, happy to be able to discover the secrets behind the words we use every day. And Toju, with a serene tone, began to list what he defined as diseases of the tongue. Excessive talking, began the old and wise monk, is the first thing we should avoid. Like a raging river that overwhelms everything in its path, uncontrolled and excess words drive us towards transgressions and repentances of various kinds. Wisdom lies in knowing how to dominate one's own language, carefully choosing each word to pronounce. Imagine a river flowing placidly and silently, crossing the valley with grace and harmony. Now imagine the same river after a heavy rain, when it transforms into a raging torrent that carries with it everything in its path. Excessive words are like that torrent, impulsive, destructive, and incapable of building bridges of understanding. While the disciples listened attentively to their mentor's words, Toju continued by talking about the second disease, useless words. Every word spoken has a weight and an echo that resonates throughout the world, he said. Let us avoid pronouncing useless words, words that are not necessary. Instead, we choose words carefully, using only those that are truly necessary and that bring value to our discussions. Think of a conversation in which every sentence is filled with empty, meaningless words, like the incessant barking of a dog that carries no message. Useless words are like that barking, annoying, distracting, and incapable of enriching our communication. Spreading slander is another sick way of using words and their power. Defamation, like a deadly poison, poisons relationships and destroys reputations. We must be very careful not to spread lies or gossip, remembering that every false word leaves an indelible mark on the soul of those who listen to it. Imagine a drop of poison falling into a crystalline lake. In a few moments, the entire surface of the lake will be contaminated and can no longer be drunk. Slander is like that poison, harmful, corrosive, and capable of destroying trust and respect between people. Sometimes we happen to speak too easily and we tend to criticize and defame others. Let's avoid doing this because the first to be damaged by this attitude are ourselves. The disciples, between one word and another of the monk, reflected and saw themselves in his stories. Lying is another disease that we should cure if we want to achieve emotional balance through which we can live in peace. The master continued. Every lie we tell, big or small, takes us further from the truth and brings us closer to the darkness. Let us choose the truth firmly, even when it is difficult to say or bear, because only the truth frees us from the chains of evil. Think of a path immersed in fog, where visibility is limited and the risk of getting lost is very high. The lie is like that fog. It deceives our senses, confuses us, and distances us from the light of truth, the only one that can help us on our spiritual journey. Flattering through the use of words is another thing we should never do. Flattering words, like a deceptive net, capture those who listen to them, but do not lead to anything good. Therefore, my dears, let us avoid flattery and seek sincerity in our relationships, basing them on mutual respect and authentic esteem. And if we notice that someone is flattering us, let's think carefully about what kind of person they are and what they really want from us. Imagine a flower that blooms artificially, nourished by chemical fertilizers and not by sunlight. Flattery is like that flower, beautiful in appearance, but insubstantial and destined to wither quickly. Hasty words are another poison for our communication and the relationships we have with others. If we don't think carefully before opening our mouths, we risk using the wrong words or saying things that would be better kept to ourselves. And in this way, we can ruin relationships with people and create misunderstandings and very deep wounds. So, before speaking, let's think very carefully about what we really want to say. In this way, we will preserve our inner peace and that of the people we interact with. As the sun began to hide behind the mountains, turning the roof of the monastery red, Toju introduced another major tongue disease. Vulgar and offensive language, he said, harms both the speaker and the listener by creating an atmosphere of negativity and hostility. We choose respectful and edifying language, which reflects the beauty and nobility of the human soul. Only in this way will we contribute to the mental well-being of each of us. Imagine a garden full of wildflowers growing haphazardly and prickling with their thorns. Rude language is like that garden, chaotic, unpleasant, and inhospitable to those who wish to find peace and harmony. Words of criticism, like sharp blades, wound and tear the heart of those who receive them. Added the monk, speaking of another mistake that many make when speaking to someone. Let us avoid judging others, remembering that each of us is on a journey towards our own evolution and has the right to respect and compassion, and remembering that no one, including ourselves, is perfect. Think of a mirror that reflects only the imperfections and distortions of our face. Critical judgment is like that mirror. It distorts reality, deprives us of compassion, and prevents us from seeing the inner beauty of every person. Even sarcasm and irony, used with malice, can be deadly weapons that wound and humiliate. We choose sincere and direct language, avoiding hiding our thoughts behind veils of irony that can be misunderstood and cause pain. Imagine a poisoned arrow flying through the darkness, striking its victim without warning. Sarcasm and irony are like that arrow, unpredictable, harmful, and capable of leaving deep wounds in the soul. While the disciples were grateful for everything they were hearing, the monk went on to talk about using overly complex words and language. Language that is too complex and obscure, he said, can create confusion and alienate others. We choose simple and clear words, accessible to all, to communicate effectively and create bridges of understanding. Think of a map drawn with incomprehensible symbols and intricate routes. Dark, complex languages like that map, inaccessible, disorienting, and incapable of guiding people to their desired destination. Toju went on to explain how to recognize and overcome these diseases of the tongue. The first thing I recommend is to practice mindfulness. Pay much more attention to the words you say and how you say them, observing your thoughts and emotions before you speak. Just as a skilled gardener observes each plant carefully, taking care of it with love and patience, so we must observe our words, recognizing the weeds to eradicate and the flowers to cultivate. Choosing words carefully is another practice you need to follow. Select positive, constructive, and respectful words, avoiding negative, destructive, and offensive ones. Just as a painter carefully chooses colors to create a masterpiece, so we must choose words carefully to create harmonious and inspiring communication. Listening carefully is another thing you need to learn to do. You must not only think about pronouncing words, but you must also learn to listen carefully to what others say. If you do it with open-mindedness and compassion, you will be able to choose the right words based on the context and the people in front of you. And this will avoid misunderstandings and frustrations for both you and others. Remember that, just as an attentive musician listens to every note of a symphony, so we must listen to the words of others carefully, trying to understand their deepest message. Cultivating kindness and compassion is another way to understand how to use your language. Use words to encourage, support, and comfort others, spreading love and positivity into the world. Just as a ray of sunshine warms the earth and makes flowers bloom, so words of kindness and compassion can warm hearts and make hope flourish in the world. Being sincere and authentic is another tip you should follow. Toju continued with a smile on his face. Expressing our thoughts and feelings with honesty and integrity, without fear of being judged, allows us to do good for ourselves and the people we relate to. Like a tree that grows strong and robust, rooted in the earth, so we must be sincere and authentic, rooted in our values and beliefs. Another important thing you should do, my dear disciples, is to learn from your mistakes. Recognizing when we make communication errors and using them as opportunities to grow and improve makes us better people. Like a craftsman who learns from his mistakes to perfect his work, so we must learn from our communication mistakes to become more effective communicators. In this way, we will avoid hurting others and ourselves due to words chosen poorly or not thought through enough. Remember that words, when used with wisdom and compassion, can become tools of healing, inspiration, and change. Words can create bridges of understanding, stable and lasting relationships, encourage people, and spread ideas, spread love and hope in the world. Therefore, use words in the best way to create harmonious relationships, to nurture your values, your inner peace, but also to bring light into the world. Remember that your language is a garden in which to plant plants, trees that when planted and cultivated can make kindness, compassion, and wisdom flourish. In theory, what does this Zen story teach us? It teaches us that our language is a very powerful tool, capable of building or destroying, healing or wounding at the same time. It is up to you, it is up to us, as particles of this society, to choose a language of wisdom and compassion to create a world of harmony, rich in love and understanding for all living beings.